What's up? What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Minor League Take. I'm your host, Brad Case, and this week we have Matt Pierpont on the show. Matt got drafted all the way back in 2013 and has been playing minor league baseball all the way since then, and he's been grinding his way through and putting up remarkable season after remarkable season. Um, he's a fantastic dude. I really encourage you guys to go check out his the rest of his story because he's a very good guy, and he's always looking out for other people. Um, as always, this episode is presented by More Than Baseball. More Than Baseball has given hundreds and thousands of dollars to minor leaguers and assistants to try to make their living situations better. Because as I talk about this all the time on the show, it's a tough life, not making much money and living on the road all the time. So I can't thank them enough for everything they do, and they sponsor this podcast, which I can't thank them enough for that too. So go please check out all their social media pages at mtb_org. And let's get into the show. I hope you guys enjoy. What's going on, Matt Pierpont? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
That's good. I'm good. It's good to talk to you again. It's been a long time since we got to train together back in Orlando, but here we are, still waiting for the next season to start.
Yeah, seriously. It feels like years ago.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy long now. So let's start where I start with everybody on this podcast. Can you give me kind of an idea of what high school baseball kind of looks like for Matt Pierpont?
Yeah. So I grew up in just south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I played baseball up there, and it's definitely not. Well, you're from New York too, so you understand that it's not the biggest sport. It's football and wrestling and a little bit of hockey up there.
Yeah.
But I was born in Florida, and I grew up in a baseball family, so that was always my first love. So no matter where I was, that's what I was going to be doing. And high school baseball for me, I was a shortstop, and
Really?
I pitched. I pitched a little bit, but always wanted to play the infield. Hitting was my favorite thing to do.
Damn.
So my freshman year, I made varsity as a freshman and played a little bit, probably half the games or so. I had some injuries, and then my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I started every game, and we won state championship my junior year of
Wow.
high school, which was 2008.
Wow.
So
Man.
Shout out to my teammates on that one, 2008 state champs. And I actually went. I ended up going to Winthrop University, but that was the only school that wanted me to do both, to play the infield and pitch. So I was hitter first throughout high school, and I had a lot of success. I'd say in high school, just playing, but the level of talent up there, the depth of the talent, I'll say, is not the same as it is in a lot of other places.
I for sure can agree with that. Up here in New York, it's the same thing. Like, we have some good players, but it's not like as stacked. There's not as many D1 guys all from one high school. Like, there'll be a couple here and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all kind of spread out, but that's cool. You're another guy that you want to go to college that was going to allow you to do a two-way and do both ways.
I didn't. I tried quitting twice. I tried quitting pitching twice. Once my freshman year, and then once again my sophomore year, because I just wanted to hit. I just ended up picking the only school that wanted me to do both, and I picked it because it was south. I wanted to get out of the cold.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to play all year round, and I love the facilities in the school and everything, and the coaches there. So I picked it, but I picked it to go hit. And as soon as I got on campus, I tried to quit pitching, but it just didn't. Yeah. Luckily, it didn't stick.
So wait, were most schools offering to have you come play just to be a pitcher, or were they offering you just to be a hitter?
No, just to be a hitter. Every school that, like, all my offers were only to hit. I didn't try to pitch. I didn't any showcases or anything. Was only as a shortstop, third baseman. That was what I did. I just happened to be able to pitch, and so Winthrop was the only one that said, "Hey, let's see you pitch a little bit." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then I was like, "Yeah, I think I just want to try to start. Like, I want to start as a freshman. I wanted to earn that spot." And I threw a bullpen, and they were like, "I think you're gonna pitch as well. I think you can help us out." So it didn't work, and I ended up doing both.
Luckily, shit, I'm really good at this. That stinks.
Yeah. I don't know if it was that, but I was at that point. I threw hard enough, I guess, but I could throw multiple pitches and stuff. I threw a lot of strikes, so I could
which
definitely
is
help.
pitching in its essence.
Yeah, but I was so young then. I didn't know anything about pitching. It was just like, you tell me what to throw, I'll try to throw it, and that was
You put a
it. There was
number down,
no,
and I'll figure it out from there.
yeah, there was no locating or setting
Yeah.
guys up. It was just throwing the ball. And I could throw a couple different pitches, so it worked out.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's cool. I didn't realize. I know you talked about like being a shortstop a little bit when we were working out last offseason, but I didn't realize to that extent like you really were a shortstop going into college.
Yeah, so I was shortstop all through high school. I played it all 4 years. I never even I didn't play any other position in high school other than shortstop and pitch. And then when I got to when I got to college, I knew I had a chance to play a little bit shortstop, but I was better suited to play third just based off of size and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So my freshman year, I played mostly third base. I played a little bit of shortstop, a little bit of second base as well, but primarily third. But yeah, I'd like to hit. Hitting was my thing. Defense
Fun.
was probably defense. I mean, I was solid, but I wasn't great. But hitting was my thing. And once I got to college and in high school, speaking of high school baseball, you see, at that time it was a little bit different with velocity and stuff, but you'd see, mid to upper 80s
That's a
once in a
big
while.
shock. Yeah, that's a big surprise when you see that below.
And then you get to college and that's every single arm.
Yeah, it
So it
becomes
took
the
me,
average. Yeah.
yeah, and it took me a little while, and I struggled a little bit. And it was actually the left-handed changeup that probably ended my hitting career. Never seen one of those before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went in full go just as a hitter.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's surprising. I didn't even know that myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously though, the pitching worked and the pitching was successful enough. When did like you said earlier, you threw hard but not like quite that hard. When did that start to change? When did like the velo gains happen and like you start to realize like, oh shit, like I'm pretty good at this?
It wasn't even that. It wasn't really velo because I mean, I guess this is dating me a little bit, and I know it's almost difficult for you to understand because it's so like you grew up in that time where that's all that mattered. Like the number was all that mattered. And whenever I
Yeah,
got to
I
college,
think I
like
was a little bit behind. I think I was just in the beginning stages of that, but I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah, and it was just like that wasn't even a question. Like nobody even asked. So I mean, I don't even know how hard I threw my freshman year of college. I can
Wow.
only tell you how hard I threw my junior and senior year, which it wasn't necessarily that I had a huge jump and I thought that was, my chance to go play. Um, the coach that recruited me to go to Winthrop ended up getting fired after my freshman year, so a whole
Oh,
new coaching
yikes.
staff came in. That just and that's a tough thing. They have their own guys and they want their own things. And
Mm.
he didn't see me as the player that the other coach saw me. And throughout my sophomore year, I went from playing in 50 games my freshman year of college um, in the infield and pitching 25 innings to playing 10 games and pitching 50 innings my sophomore year. And
Well,
I spent all that time, both years as a pitcher or as a hitter, excuse me.
yeah.
I didn't throw bullpens. I didn't work with the pitchers. I didn't do anything. I was just an infielder. And then my sophomore year, I was doing everything as an infielder and not getting to play. And then it'd be like, hey, go down to the bullpen. We need you. And I'd go
That's
throw.
wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They were
So
just once a weekend, you're just throwing your spikes on and getting off the mound.
yeah, so like, and then it quickly turned to I became the midweek starter. I became a midweek starter a little bit my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple starts, and then same my sophomore year. I'd start a midweek game, and then I'd relieve on the weekends, and maybe get a pinch hit if they threw a lefty, or might get a spot start if they threw a lefty or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was putting all this work into hit and just wasn't getting opportunities. And then when I did get opportunities, I wasn't used to coming off the bench. That's a whole different animal. And I just
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I didn't perform. And my love for hitting just kind of started to fade. And then my sophomore summer, I played in the Outer Banks to pitch and hit.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I just came to the field to hit early, which is what I used to love doing. And I just hated it. I didn't want to do it anymore.
Wow.
And
It
so I
just
called
changed over the course of like 2 years. It went from you loved it into like, you're like, I'm not sure if I want to do this anymore.
yeah, it was literally like it was all over my sophomore year. And then that one day I went in and hit. I remember like it was yesterday. I was hitting in the cage and I was just like, I'm done. Like I can't. I know what I need to. I know the amount of work I need to put in to have success, and I don't enjoy doing it anymore. So I called my college pitching coach. I said, "Hey, I'm going to come back next year, only as a pitcher," and he was excited about it. And I
Shit.
put my bat down, and that was that.
Damn. Wow. That's
Yeah.
something, dude. That's something. I know for myself, like, it's obviously I was in high school when I stopped hitting,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a conversation with anyone. They said, all right, guys, BP starts in 5 minutes. Pitchers go to the outfield. And I just didn't show up for BP and I just went to the outfield. And everyone was fine with that.
And that was the end of it.
That was the end of it. Yeah. So damn. All right. Well, you get there junior year and you're just a PO now. And did you immediately feel unathletic or did that take a little time?
Oh, it took a little bit of time. I felt like I was oozing athleticism at that time. But then, man, I was 20 years old. So almost 10 years later. And I think about playing and it feels like it's forever ago. It feels like I never even did it. But there's definitely still some athleticism in there.
Oh, for sure.
I'll say that. There's a little bit in there.
A couple times last year. I saw it.
I can throw the football a little bit. I can field my position out there. So it's not terrible, but it's definitely not the same that it used to be. Definitely not the same.
For sure. But yeah, no, so you're moving in junior year and now you're this PO. And like you said, you started getting on the radar gun for the first time. And up until this point, you had always thought like, all right, I throw it kind of hard. What were some of those first velo readings? And were you surprised with what you saw?
It's not even that. Like I was on it before, I just never paid attention to it. Like at that point, like throwing 90, if you threw 90 or more, like you threw relatively hard.
Yeah,
I'd say like 95 is the new 90, and it's getting close to being 100 is the new 90. It seems like, but I mean, as a starter, I'd be upper 80s. I'd touch 91, 92, something like. I think my senior year, I might have touched 93 once, but. I was always more, I'd sink the ball. That's always what I did. So it wasn't like I was throwing hard four seamers. I was a hard two seam pitch to, not necessarily pitch to contact. I'd say I was in college. I think I was just under a strikeout an inning.
Okay. That's what you need.
But even that, like if you look at my college numbers, I'm not a very good college baseball player. I took a lot. Well, don't read them out loud though. You can look at them, but don't read them. But my freshman year,
this is fine.
My senior year was good, but
that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that was good. That's what got me drafted. That was enough.
Yeah.
But I just kind of figured it out along the way. Like it wasn't that I couldn't pitch or I didn't have success. It was a lot of the mental game, and just the little things about actually pitching, not just throwing. I'd have a ton of success and then I'd get really frustrated with one thing. And the next thing I know, I gave up 5 runs in an inning.
Yeah, you would start to let things spiral and kind of get out of control.
Exactly. So it was kind of figuring that part out, which was once I became a PO my junior year, I felt like I threw a lot. I think I had like 13 starts, 12 or 13 starts. I threw like 95 innings or something like that. So I was averaging like over 7 innings a start. So I was having a lot of success, but our team at that point wasn't hitting a lot. And so if I gave up some runs early, or if I gave up a lot of runs early, I was kind of eating a lot of the innings. But most of the time it would end up being, I'd throw 4 scoreless and I'd give up a 5 spot and then throw another couple scoreless innings. But the numbers
you'd have
terrible.
The one stinker, the one inning that kind of got out of control.
Exactly. And that was kind of the story of that junior year, which was what led me into learning more about the mental side of the game and mental side of pitching, and cleaned up some things going into my senior year, which gave me the opportunity to get drafted and continue my career.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And, speaking of getting drafted, huge thing I'd love to talk about in the show is kind of, when was that moment where things kind of went from like, oh, it'd be cool if I got drafted to it's cool when I get drafted? Like, when did you start to see that as a reality for yourself?
Honestly, not until I heard my name. Um,
Really?
I went into that. I went into it knowing that there's a good chance that I might get drafted, but
Yeah.
there's a good chance that I might not. I kind of already had some plans in set if I didn't,
Do you have a
and
job lined up?
not a job lined up, but my degree was exercise science and strength
Okay.
conditioning was my
Oh,
focus.
wow.
So one, if I didn't get drafted, I was going to take my CSCS and then look into trying to get a strength, like a grad assistant position or a strength
Hmm.
position somewhere in college. So not necessarily a job lined up, but I went.
You're moving in that direction.
I was moving in that direction, and I had a good. I'd say my senior year, I had a start at UCF at the beginning of the year,
Hmm.
and now I can't even remember. I can't think of the guy's name that threw on. Maybe Dylan Covey, maybe that might have been his
You
name.
pitched good that game,
Uh,
looks like.
he was their Friday night guy. I think he ended up being a first or second rounder, but he was
Ah, good
supposed
for
to
him.
be the guy, and I just happened to be starting against him, and I threw a really really great game. And my coach started getting a lot more calls and stuff, so I knew that hey, there might be a chance. I just
Wow.
kept getting better and learning more and performing and put together a decent enough senior year to give myself a chance going into the draft. But by no means was I certain that my name was going to be called. It was whatever God's plan was. It was what it was going to be. But I didn't know if it was on to real life or getting to play a game for a little bit longer. And luckily, I got to play a game for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. I didn't realize that you weren't even sure, if it was going to happen. You're like, oh, it still might happen. And then, until you saw, did they even do the live, video at that point?
So it wasn't
Or
video.
was it just a conference call?
Yeah, it was like a conference call because I was 26th round. So day 3 was just
Yeah.
they didn't have the video. They just have that conference call, and I had it on at my college house. Me and my other roommate who was hoping to get drafted as well, and my family was there,
Mm-hmm.
and we pretty much all. I was kind of packing up my college house, but we were just all sitting around listening,
Kind of hanging out. Yeah.
hoping to hear one of our names called.
Damn,
So
that's kind of cool. Did your
yeah.
roommate end up getting drafted too?
No, he did not.
Oh,
But
that's unfortunate.
he signed a free agent deal with the Yankees. He actually got more money than I did in a free agent deal, so it worked out better. It worked out better for him. And he pitched for 5 or 6 years with the Yankees, so he ended up having a solid minor league career as well. So
Damn. Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny. They ended up signing for more than you.
yeah. You don't get that senior sign doesn't bring
Yeah,
in too
dude, that
much
senior
money.
sign is something that needs to change in baseball. That's something that's just they're gonna keep getting away with it until someone puts their foot down. Which who knows if someone ever will.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's part of the game. And at that point, the money wasn't why I wanted to play anyways. As a senior, it was like I filled out every questionnaire like
Mm.
what's the lowest amount you'll sign for? And it's like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Like just
Mm.
call me
Yeah, a
and I'll
jersey that
be
says
there.
Pierpont on the back.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
much it. That's it. I didn't care. So I just want a chance to keep getting better, a chance to chase a dream, and luckily I got that chance.
yeah, dude. If you've absolutely run with that chance, because I mean, you get drafted, and you've played. Geez, you've played 20. Yeah, since 2013, you've been in pro ball.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a long road, and dude, you've put up great numbers every single year. Your worst year was 2015
I
with a 4.5. Like that's still great. That's still good.
It was that was a tough year. That was the year I kind of figured it out was the All-Star break because I went in the All-Star break 2015 in the Cal League. Um, I think I had like an 8 ERA at the All-Star break.
Wow.
And I felt like I was throwing the ball well. And it wasn't necessarily like the big numbers, the same thing in college, but it was just how I was evaluating myself and the pressure I was putting on
Mm.
myself to put up zeros, to just to only worry about my ERA made my ERA blow up because that was the only thing on my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and I my my worst appearance ever in professional baseball was the last game before the All-Star break in Bakersfield, California, which is no longer a professional baseball field, luckily, because it's the worst field in America.
Yeah.
Um, and I ended up giving up 5 runs and didn't get an out and didn't give up an
Oh,
extra base hit and didn't give up a barrel. It just kind of like snowball, like just random stuff just kept having bad
oh God.
bounces or a bloop or this or that. And then next thing you know, I give up 5 runs. I'm taken out of the game and haven't gotten an out yet. And I'm
Oh
like,
man, that's a terrible feeling.
yeah. And you go into the All-Star break thinking like, man, you better figure it out because, you don't as a non-prospect or a senior
Yeah.
sign, like you don't have a long leash.
Yeah, you don't have
Um,
that cushion of like, all right, he's having a rough spot right now. Like I know for myself, like when you get into those ruts, when you get into those like, all right, I've had a bad couple of games, I gotta figure this out like right
yeah,
now.
yeah, absolutely. And that just makes it worse because that pressure that you're putting on yourself only keeps your mind off of the things you can control, which are just throwing the ball where you want to and having a plan and attacking hitters. But just executing pitches is all you can do. And when you're thinking about, man, if I give up a run, my ERA is going to go up even more, then it ends up going up even more because you end up finding a way to
Yeah,
give up that run somehow.
exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, it looks like you figured things out because I mean, you like you said, it was at an 8, and then it got down to a 4 or 5. Was that really just a turning point for you that season?
Yeah, like literally, that game was the last game before the All-Star break, and we went home to. I was in Modesto, California. Went home, and our like mental skills coach, our sports psychologist in the Rockies, called me and 2 of my roommates and wanted to take us out to lunch. And we just went out to lunch, and it was the first time that somebody told me that I was good enough to play in the big leagues. Uh, that was like the first time that someone said, like the difference here and in the big leagues is not a
Minimal.
big
Yeah.
thing. It's a small thing, and it's about the mental part of it. It's about focusing on the things you can control. And like I said, I was so worried about my ERA, um, that I wasn't thinking about anything else. And so every single time that I played a game, my parents couldn't watch the games at that point because only a few stadiums were like broadcasting the games. Um, and I knew that my parents were staying up late to follow games, and they're just looking at box scores. And the only thing that they know how to see if I threw well or not is, did I give up a run or did I not? And so that's all I cared about. But as you know, you can go out, and especially you with your stuff and sink, like you can go out in 4 pitches and get 3 outs, like
Mhm.
no problem, just like that. But if you go back and look those 4 pitches, they might not be anywhere near where you wanted to throw them. You just threw 4 pitches and they happened to get out that time.
Yeah.
And you could go into another inning and throw 30 pitches and throw 25 of them exactly where you want to, and then walk off the field and you gave up 4 runs. And you're
Yeah,
like,
it's just, I mean, that's just baseball, and that's kind of just how things go once in a while. And you gotta just chalk it up to you're in control of the ball up until it leaves your hand. After that, you gotta just kind of see what happens.
exactly. So my mindset totally changed from, I stopped caring anything about runs or hits or anything. I didn't look at since that point in 2015, I've never looked at my stats during a season
You don't
since
check it
that
out at
point.
all.
No, I don't look at it. I don't care about it. Sometimes I'll see it. Obviously, if it comes on a scoreboard or something, you see it. Um, but
Yeah,
I don't
you
allow,
don't go out
wouldn't
of your
allow
way to go
myself to
check.
look. No, not at
Yeah.
all. And I changed my mindset to, after every single game, I'd go back and watch it if I had video, or in my
Mm.
mind, immediately after the game, I would just go back and look at the chart and say which pitches I executed and which ones I didn't.
Yeah.
And so I graded myself off of a percentage, and I had a percentage of what I wanted to hit. And I knew that if I, if I threw 65% of my pitches where I wanted to over the course of a season, my ERA and my stats would kind of take care of themselves.
Yeah, man.
So I took that mentality into it.
That's something that's good. That's something I probably should learn too, because I do watch a lot of video during season. And I do like look at a lot of that stuff, but I also follow my stats super closely, and that probably hurt me a little bit my only full season. But I personally like that. And in case you didn't know, you've never had over a 3 ERA since that year.
I knew that. I've known that. I've seen it. I'll look at it after.
Yeah.
To see what you did and all that. But it just puts so much stress on you, and especially you being a starter, you have 4 days between each outing. Mm-hmm. And the amount of stress that you can put on yourself just by, last game I only threw 3 innings. I gave up 5 runs. For me to get my ERA back down to a 3, I need to go 6 shutout. Well, what happens?
I wouldn't get that deep, but I do know what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Not necessarily you, but
guys, yeah.
And then if that's your thought process and you give up a leadoff home run in the first, like, what are you going to do?
I had done those calculations in my head in the game, and like, shit, that's 3.5 ERA.
Yeah, it sucks, and it's really, baseball is hard enough, and when you're putting all that pressure on yourself for a stat that honestly, especially in baseball right now, that stat means nothing to front offices, to coaches. Like, they understand that there's so much that goes into it that's out of your control. And for me as a reliever, I might have 2 outs and a guy on second base, and a lefty comes up. They might bring in a lefty to face him. If he gives up a hit and the run scores, it's my run, but I didn't do anything different.
Yeah, that's true too.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. What would you say is probably like the biggest stat that you would look right now as an indicator of like if a guy's good or not? Or if, like, what do you think at least front offices are going to, factoring in the most? Is it exit velo off them? Is it velo in general?
What do I think it should be, or what do I think it is?
Yes, I want to hear both.
Okay, so I think it's different for every team. The more I learn about different organizations, I know that they value different things.
Rockies value ground balls, I'm going to guess.
Not as much as you would think anymore. It's a lot of it, and it, a lot of it goes to, right now the game is, if you put your stuff on paper, do I think it's going to produce a lot of swings and misses?
Yeah.
When I look at your stuff on paper, and all of that, and vertical break and induced vertical break and like all of that. So they can look at it on paper and say, okay, the numbers tell me that you're supposed to produce a lot of swings and misses, so that person gets a chance. But you've seen it a lot of times that doesn't happen. I think, I think exit velo is a great way to look at it, because even if you can see exit velo and you can see strikeouts, obviously, so you can see if someone's striking people out. But if you're consistently have a very low exit velo against, that means that you're producing a lot of weak contact, and you have to be doing something. That there's some value in that, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, best hitters, they're going to strike out, but they're going to hit the ball. And if you
I had
to lose that.
Yeah, I had one of my friends on the other day, and he was talking about how he had, I think, the 3rd worst batting average on his team for a summer, but he had the 3rd highest exit velo, and he just barreled it right at guys. And he was freaking out because his batting average was low, but the hitting coaches were like, dude, you're hitting missiles. Like, I don't care. He's like, it's fine. It happens.
Yeah. So. It's tough. I've seen that. Yeah. I've seen it with hitters too. I actually played with a guy who I felt like it was almost every year. Like, he was that guy who just every ball he barreled up was a line drive right at somebody. And that's frustrating. But if you're consistently finding the barrel, the numbers, like, you're going to find hits sooner or later if you're consistently hitting the ball hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like it should be the same as a pitcher. If you're consistently finding weak contact, that has to play to some extent. Teams should value that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully so. Hopefully so. Since you've been in AA since 2016, and you had you played great in AAA in 2019. And you've been in the higher part of this organization with the Rockies for a while. Have you gotten a chance to kind of be around the big leaguers and some of the guys that are now in the big leagues? You've had plenty of chance to be around them, right?
Yeah. So, the fact that I was drafted in 2013, most of the guys on the Rockies big league roster are guys that I came up playing with. Obviously, Blackman's a little bit before me. Arenado's a little bit before me.
Mm-hmm.
I miss Story by a couple years. But like the prime group of young guys, I played with all of them. And then, I went to big league spring training in 2018. So, and I backed up games in 2016, 17.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you've been
so
around the spring training facilities a lot with those guys.
Yeah, and the Rockies do a good job of at spring training of having everybody together. Obviously, you have separate locker rooms and stuff, but you share the same cafeteria and weight room and stuff. So you're still intermingling with the big league guys and stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, I came up with all of them. All of them are they're good friends to me. They're teammates. I root for them. I follow them. I don't watch that much baseball, but I do follow the people that I care about, that I've come up with. It's cool to see them have success. So yeah, I mean, every one of them pretty much.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think about now.
Yeah, I know it's definitely funky. I mean, a guy I played with last year he made his debut this year, and it was like crazy watching him on TV, thinking like, "Whoa, dude! Like I played with this kid. Like, that's nuts."
The first couple of times that happens, it's such a cool moment, especially like the first time that you're in a locker room or on a bus. When it's cool when someone just gets called up to the next level, but when someone gets called up to the big leagues for the first time, it's like the coolest thing ever. And especially when it's someone like a guy that you came up with, a guy that you're like really close with, that you consider a close friend. It's you're personally invested in them just because they're your friend and you played with them. But it's just so cool to see somebody get to live their dream and you to be there for the moment they find out. It's awesome. It's really cool.
Do you got any good stories you want to tell off that?
Man, I mean, obviously, I think that my favorite one is Dom Nunez, because he's a catcher with the Rockies. He got called up in 2019, but we played together in 2017, 2018, and 2019. So 2 years in Double-A. And a year in AAA, but we were in the same draft. He was a high school kid. I was a college kid. So we didn't play with each other in the lower levels, but starting in Double-A, he was my catcher. And honestly, I'd say that he helped my career so much. He's probably my favorite catcher I've ever thrown to. I've had a lot of success, and obviously the more you throw to somebody, the more comfortable you get. But we also lived together in 2018. We lived together in 2019. So that bond starts to grow when you're living with somebody. And he was having a monster year in 2019. And I was there with him in 2017 when he was struggling and I could see the future for him. I knew that he had a bright future. His catching ability is out of this world. And he's got a really solid bat with a lot of pop. So I knew that he had that, but he had been struggling. So to be able to see him struggle and then to see him in 2019 in AAA, just mashing baseballs, having a huge year. And then we're just in the clubhouse after the game and the manager comes in and he's just giving a talk and then says that, he's getting called up to the big leagues. And it was, I mean, I felt like I was getting called up to the big leagues. I was so pumped for him. But then we get to, I help him. We go home, we celebrate in the clubhouse, and we go back to our apartment and help him pack up. But then, share a beer or two and wish him the best of luck. And then he's off the next day, off to Denver, and then you're watching him on TV. So that one was cool for me just because we were so close with that pitcher catcher relationship, and then living together. I was ecstatic when he finally got a chance.
Yeah, man, that's cool. That's really cool. I hope I'm around more guys as they get called up, and just watch other guys that I played with and I know start to get the opportunity. I really hope to see you there soon, because I know you deserve that, man. I know you have been working your ass off for a long time, and it's got to suck, especially with how this year has gone with COVID, just because you played out your full minor league contract. For everyone listening that doesn't know, when you sign a contract, it's a 6-year contract. And then after that, you're allowed to negotiate a new one and kind of figure out from there what to do. But you went back to the Rockies last year.
Yeah. So I played out my full rookie contract. Went into 2000, going into 2020, looking for a new team, seeing if there was anything else out there. By the time I got around this time, I'd say,
Hmm.
around a week after the new year last year, the Rockies was the only solid offer I had at the time, and I didn't want to risk going into spring training without having a job. So I signed back. I felt good about that. I knew I have a reputation there. I know the coaches in the front office and the
Yeah, it's
players.
a very familiar setting.
Exactly. So, I was comfortable going back. I knew that it would be a lot of hard work to get an opportunity to pitch in the big leagues.
Hmm.
Um, but that kind of goes without saying. But I knew that I've done enough to earn some respect, and that if I went in and got better and kept putting up numbers and doing my thing, that I might have an opportunity. And then obviously go out to spring training and get sent home like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Um, and at the point we got sent home, they were like, "You'll just be home for a couple weeks," and I didn't
Two
even
weeks
pack
to
my
slow the
stuff.
spread.
Yeah, I didn't pack my stuff. I brought home a glove and a pair of cleats. I left my entire locker, and at that point, I was staying with Brendan Rodgers at his place,
Yeah.
so I packed up maybe half of my clothes. I left my car out there, and I flew home because I thought I was
You
going
left
back.
everything out there.
I left everything out there. And when I got back, I came back to Florida, and a kid that got drafted with me, Connor Wade, got drafted with me in 2013 by the Rockies. He's from Scottsdale, but he was with the Red Sox last year. And so he drove out to Florida for spring training, and I drove
Mm.
out to Arizona. And then we both flew back when we got sent home. So we just traded cars. So I was driving his truck. I was driving his truck all summer long, and he had my car, and we kept delaying it. Like, we'll get sent back. It'll be fine. Like, we'll get sent back. And then, a few months later, we're like, yeah, probably time to get our cars and our stuff back.
Oh my God. Would you drive to New Orleans and drop it off for him?
I wish that would have not been as far, but I drove to can't even think what town it was in Texas. I drove 15 and a half hours. He drove 15 and a half hours to some middle of nowhere in Texas. We literally traded keys. His wife was pregnant, so we were trying to be careful. We traded keys, talked for a little bit, went to sleep, got up the next day, and we both drove home. It was crazy. 30 hours
Oh
in
my
two
God.
days by yourself. It wasn't the most fun thing in the
No, I
world.
can't. I can't imagine. I mean, it's got to be a little bit of a good feeling of getting back in your car again.
Yeah, but at that, I have a car. You've seen
Yeah.
my car, and he had a truck, and
I'm sure
I don't
you
know.
started to like the truck.
I was getting used to the big space, having all that extra space.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to have all my stuff back. But if I could have somehow gotten it all back without
Yeah.
driving
Another way to
30
do that.
hours, that would have been great. But
Damn.
I was
That's pretty
not
funny.
paying to ship that thing, so we weren't going into that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, man. And then, well, like you said earlier, you signed that contract with the Rockies, and it was for 1 year. And I didn't even realize till I started doing my prep for this show that you're now a free agent. What's
Yeah.
kind of the plan and the pathway for you going forward?
Man, it's been tough. Luckily I have an agent and he's handling all of it. But as as good as anyone, they're cutting minor league players, they're cutting
Mhm.
minor league teams, they're cutting spending. Um, and as of right now, I have no offers, no job. I've been training for 18 months straight without playing,
Yeah.
which is getting old. But I'm starting to, I've been ramping back up, trying to stay game ready and look for an opportunity. I think that there really hasn't even been that many major league signings,
No,
which
not
is
really.
I need that first domino to fall once a lot of the big names start signing, or um, major guys with major league experience that might have to end up. They're looking for a major league deal, and they might have to take a minor league deal. I need to see where they end up, and then teams, looking for AAA depth in the bullpen. Hopefully, get a call there, or go throw in front of some people. We'll see what happens, but just ramping up my throwing the same as anybody else, and I'm trying to put myself get myself the best opportunity to get another opportunity to go play. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's some nerd with a laptop somewhere that goes, "Oh wow, a 2 ERA. Maybe we should sign this guy."
I
I
hope
hope so.
I've been hoping that they come up with some new statistic or some new like analytics that I just happen to be like at the top for, and they're like, yeah, this is important, and this guy's good at it. So maybe that's it, because
Hopefully.
it's always been my data that's been the issue. I don't throw hard enough. I mean, I don't throw hard for your typical right-handed reliever. I'm not your typical guy, and the way that baseball is trending, the ERA and the performance, that stuff isn't as important, but they're looking for, just like we said, the stuff on paper that looks like swings and misses. So
Yeah, but you're a true pitcher. I mean, you have that cutter and that changeup, right?
yeah, those are
And
my two
those are your
go-tos.
pitches. Hopefully, someone figures it out sooner than later.
I hope so.
Because I think you can be a real difference maker in the big leagues, man. And I really am pulling for you.
I appreciate it. I hope I get a chance, and we'll see what happens. But I've been blessed enough to play for a long time, and this whole 2020 and coronavirus, I can't believe that it all happened, and it cost me a whole year. But it is what it is, and what are you going to do? You're just going to keep moving forward and see what happens. So
absolutely. So as we wrap up here, favorite question that I ask everybody that comes on. If you can go back in time and talk to 16-year-old Matt Pierpont and kind of give him some advice going forward, what would you give? What would you tell him?
Man, probably the number one thing I'd probably say is you don't have it all figured out. Life in general, baseball in general, at such a young age, I always knew that I wanted to play professional baseball. And if you would have told me at 16 that I would have been a professional pitcher, I would have laughed in your face and said, there's no way. I had everything mapped out the way that I wanted to go. I wanted to be a big leaguer, but I wanted to be a third baseman, a power hitting third baseman.
You wanted to be Nolan Arenado.
Well, he wasn't the thing yet. I wanted
I know.
Evan Longoria was my guy back in the day. That's who I looked up to. I love watching him play. But yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And I wouldn't say I was narrow-minded. I guess I just kind of had blinders on to what I wanted to hear and what I wanted to see. And I think that if I could go back and just tell him to be a little bit more open, a little bit more receptive, maybe if I would have bought in on pitching a little bit earlier, not necessarily giving up hitting, but just bought into actually wanting to be good at it, it wouldn't have taken me so long until I actually kind of figured some things out. I had a lot of bumpy years, but I think I'd just say, hey man, just a couple smacks in the face. You're 16. You don't have it figured out. Fine. Listen to the people that you trust. And whatever you're doing, just do it 100%. Even if you don't think that's your future, it might end up being your future.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for checking out another episode of the Minor League Take. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Matt's a great guy and a hard worker, and most importantly, a very smart pitcher. Hopefully he signs soon, and when he does, I'm going to be jumping up and down for that guy because he really deserves it. Next week we're going to have, I told you guys a couple weeks ago that I was going to have Jack Herman on the show. Scheduling got messed up. Jack Herman will be on next week's episode, and I really am excited for that. I'm going to sit down and record with him soon, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys haven't already, please rate, review, and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the episodes and, make sure that you're up to date with everything. If you want to go check out the YouTube version of this, the YouTube channel is just Brad Case. You can go make fun of my very funny recruiting video where I weighed 160 pounds back in 2014. So please go check that out too. And as well as go check out the Instagram, the Twitter, at MILB Take and at the MILB Take. And then also go check out the TikTok. I'm putting way more time into that, getting some more views on there. And if you got directed from there, please go follow that as well. And I'm really happy that you're here. Now listen to the podcast. All right. But until then, I'll see you next week. Have a good one, guys.